People can't easily walk to it. You really need to take a car. There's no bus route up to that end of Overall Drive. For those that don't know it, it's the end of a road. There is a sports field around a revegetated koala area. And as I said earlier, the koalas can handle a bit of disturbance when the sports game is on, but they don't react well to building noise and trail bikes and hooning and all the stuff that goes on when you start to leave gates open and when you have the place open 24 hours a day, or even a few hours every day. So we're basically here today to plead for a bit of sanity. We want to have a men's shed in a suitable location, which is good for them, that they can reach easily. We want to have it leave the koalas in peace. We want to have the walleye have some land left to regenerate. Yes. Did you have something to say? Okay. So we're here in search of a compromise, basically. I'm sorry to hear that it doesn't look very likely at the moment, and that's what we need all of you to do, is to reiterate, I need people to call the councillors, particularly ALP Reese Burns. Call him or send him an email. He's kind of turned his vote around here, at least he's announced that he will, and that way the 7 councillors, he will go together with the pro-development 3, and yeah, it'll be a done deal. Once they're in there, the wildlife starts to go into terminal decline. So really it's time for us to do something. And as I said, I'm not bagging the men's group. I'm 70 this year, and so I'm one of the sort of target animals for the Men's Shed Association. But the Men's Shed Association isn't behind this, don't get them wrong. They are actually in favor of a local, convenient, drop-in place that's inclusive, not at the end of a road way out of town. That's not a good spot. Whoever thought of that? Well, I'll tell you who thought of it is the councillors on the last council who are promoting development. And of those councillors, 3 of them didn't get re-elected, and 1 of them didn't stand again. So all 4 of the people who voted to offer this land to the men's shed, who favor development, all 4 of those councillors, 3 of them are gone. There's only 1 who is still there. And well, why would these people be pushing so hard? Why are they pushing so hard for an inconvenient, temporary site? They've got a grant of $70,000 to put a slab down and put up this temporary building, but it's not going to be adequate. You know, it's not going to be adequate. They're going to be asking for more and more money. This is all public money, by the way. The normal method of getting a men's shed location is to apply to Crown Lands. And this is a memorandum of understanding with the state and federal government. The funding comes from the federal government. The state allocates the land. The Crown Grant Lands say they're just waiting for a request. They can get one going in 4 or 5 weeks. So it's not like they have to, it's on the never. It's just that this group, the executive that's taken over, has refused to, as I understand it, has refused to apply. They said it's black rocks or nothing. Now why? Why would you do that? Well, I think the answer is you have to look at where this is coming from. These 4 pro-developer councillors from the last council, who, by the way, in the same meeting, refused to even write a letter to the state government to support the women's shelter. And you got to look at this sort of thing as why would you do that? And as far as I'm concerned, they see this as a Trojan horse. this is a way of pretending to give something to the community, but in fact, once they get into Black Rocks, all the developers come pouring out, and they simply overwhelm the wildlife corridor. When I heard a recording 2 weeks ago, they had a small gathering to support it. The cars drove from Pottsville out there, and I heard a recording. They said, "We're going to invite everybody to come here and join us here." Yeah, well, that's going to be the death knell of the koalas. But it's not just that. It's not just that. They could have a better site. They could leave the koalas, but for one thing is development. And the developers can save heaps of money if they don't have to worry about this pesky wildlife. The pesky wildlife, particularly when it comes to endangered populations of koalas, requires them to do certain things. In other words, like set aside 10% of the land for koala activities. Now, look, you get rid of the koalas, you get rid of the obligations. No worries. So, just remember that when this doesn't make sense to you, and it doesn't make sense, why you would put this men's shed in a place that's really inaccessible for most men, and put it in a place where the wildlife is vulnerable. Well, duh, the wildlife vulnerable, kill it off. So then we save lots and lots of money on development. Well, you know, I think that it's very difficult to prove these sort of things, and I've even been accused of being alarmist or a conspiracy theorist. And okay, yeah, if this is a conspiracy theory, then prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Let's put the koalas in a safe position. Let's put the shed somewhere else, and let's see what happens. Because the end of the road at the moment is at the Black Rock Sports Ground. If you look at the map, you will see, can someone bring that map over here? Jeff, would you bring that map? Come up and have a look at it. The Dunlow Sands position is, I know you can't see this, but I'm just going to point out to you that where it is, here's, all this area here is marked for development, right? And here, this little block over here is the sports field. Now, if you take that down, right through that big road there, which is called Overall Drive, it dead ends here. If you drive that through here, you've got to open up all that land for development. And if you don't have to pay any attention to the wildlife, or make any provisions for them to survive, then Bob's your uncle. You can do it, whatever. And I've also heard that the area is tipped for 4-story development. It's currently at 2-story height limits. And if Ron Cooper is still here, I'm sure he would be unhappy to hear about that, because he campaigned on a campaign for no height limits. Thanks. So come and have a look at that. And I just wanted to say, I don't want to bore you with lots of facts and figures, but I do have something that I think is convincing. The last election for council took place in October, a few months ago. And of those 4 councillors that I mentioned before, 3 were not elected, 1 did not stand. And it's the Barry Longland who made it his main campaign pledge was to put the men's shed into Black Rocks. His vote dropped from the previous election in 2012 to he went down from 251 in 2012 to 162. Carolyn Byrne dropped from 161 to 39. Warren Polglaze dropped from 276 to 188, and Phil Youngblood did not stand. Therefore, none of these councillors came up in the standings at Pottsville. This was a virtual referendum on putting the men's shed at Black Rocks. That's what the campaign is all about. And on the other side of the coin, Chris Cherry campaigned for the Koalas, and she topped the poll with 388. Followed closely by Katie Milne with 362. And even Ron Cooper, who is not very well known in this area, outpolled Councillor Longland. So Reese Burns, who was campaigning as part of a progressive alliance at that time, he polled 197, but you know, it's so he's actually, there's over 1,000 votes in a progressive alliance group, about 1,200 votes. And the other four councillors, amassed about 400 votes. So it's like 4-1 is outstanding victory for the Koalas and for conservation. So where did they get their evidence to show that there's a huge majority in Pottsville that are in favor of this? Well, they managed to get arguably 150 or more people out on a motoring venture 2 weeks ago. It depends on who you talk to, but there certainly wasn't more than 200. And on a fine day with perfect weather, I would expect a much higher turnout from a population of over 5,000 people. If Pottsville was really in favor of this, they would have come out in bigger numbers. We had bigger numbers here. Thank you for being part of that big numbers. Thank you.